to Kenya. In Kenya, for example, the Bomas, there were some ideas about extending Bomas. KICC, the prefab. But I think those hit a snag in terms of the process, how it will be done. And of course, sometimes, you know, our politics do interfere sometimes. But I think on a level playing field, the projection is good. What I know, though, we need more convention centers. Not only KICC, but we need more, because we need more space. The meetings business is all about space. And the bigger the space you have, the bigger the conferences you can attract. Of course, with other auxiliary services in place.
You talked about KICC, you know, having a capacity of about 4,000 people, you know, depending on the seating arrangements.
The ballroom, yes.
These days, you're looking at you know, hosting big meetings, you know, where you know, you can have even 10,000 people, you know, seated in one room. And I'm talking about, you know, meetings like you know, the Conference of Parties meetings, you know, you know, we're almost getting into November, where the next meeting is taking place in Azerbaijan. Do we have the capacity to hold such meetings whereby you have almost 100,000 delegates, you know, attending this kind of meetings?
We do. But like I mentioned, we have to expand our venue. If you look at KICC, on the prefab story, if we're able to have a prefabricated facility outside in the lawns, conjoined with COMESA, you can seat 10,000 people comfortably in one meeting. COMESA in the lawns. Because the ballroom in Savo seats about 4,000, up to about 4,000 people. So there is the space. It's a matter of how do you develop that space to be able to seat those number of people in one meeting. And I see what you're saying. Because some meetings, they're looking at, in the plenary, for example, which is normally the biggest opening session for any meeting, how many people can you sit in there? If we're able to look at that space in that perspective outside, we can be able to seat 10,000 comfortably. And that's why I said there is a need and demand for space. It's great.
And KICC cannot do this alone?
No, of course, we need, you know, it's a conjoint effort. We have the ministry, our parent ministry, we have other government stakeholders, and then we have the private sector. So what we're saying also that's very important for us is partnerships. How can we bring the right stakeholders in the table to see how we can seriously have some very serious infrastructure to handle big meetings? Not that we don't do, but we can do bigger, we can do better.
You are a parastatal domiciled under the Ministry of Tourism and Correct. I think Tourism
and Wildlife.
And Wildlife. And so you expected to drive the growth and the development of Kenyatta International Convention Center. In your own capacity, do you have the capacity or the muscle, financial muscle, to redevelop KICC by putting up new infrastructure, new venues, and new meeting rooms?
So as KICC, we are a state corporation, commercial corporation. That means we generate our own revenue and take care of our own expenses because we manage our own balance sheet, okay? So there's some certain improvements and refurbishments that we can do, our budget allowing. And that is why we have organizations like TPF,
the Tourism Promotion
Fund. We have Tourism Fund, TF. These TPF is a saga under our ministry and our sister saga that can help us mobilize funds to do some of the work we did. Actually, during the ACS Climate Summit, TPF did come in and help us inject some capital to be used for specifically refurbishments. So yes, some we can do, but some we're lucky to have sister sagas in our ministry who can help us drive the bigger capex.
And when you look at you know, the expansion of Kenyatta International Convention Center, as well as the modernization efforts, I mean, what kind of resources are needed for Thunder to sit here and say, we have now a modern, world-class and world-beating convention center at KICC?
When I look at KICC, one of the biggest items that would really take us to the next level is the ICT infrastructure. ICT infrastructure will encompass everything in terms of audiovisual, screens. I mean, we do have some, but to really take us to the next level, we will need some very serious investment in ICT infrastructure and audiovisual infrastructure so that you're able to attend to any client without having to necessarily sometimes source this from outside. So the ICT infrastructure is a very big component for me. I think that's one of the biggest components that we really need to say, how can we completely change this place up with the right infrastructure, because these days, as you know, meetings have become very advanced.
Yeah.
Technology is the new space in meetings. Do you have the right technology? For me, that's a very big piece.
And when you talk about ICT infrastructure, you're looking at issues like what?
So audiovisual equipment, right? Like right here in your studio, we're looking at the lights, we're looking at the sound system, we're looking at be able to do production, okay? Sometimes the events we hold in KICC are very, very complicated, like the Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend, which we held a number of months ago. The production for that event was quite intense. They had to bring in someone from outside the country to do the production. Why can't we do it ourselves? Why can't we invest in that equipment and the skill set to do that production ourselves? Those are the things I'm talking about. You have a one-stop shop in-house, ICT infrastructure, the latest that can do any event.
I have been part of many meetings, held at Kenyatta International Convention Center. And the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation has covered, so many meetings, being held at Kenyatta International Convention Center, from TCAD to ACS to the World Bank meetings. And there's always one thing, that comes out of when we are giving this kind of coverage. It's a lot of equipment they have to be outsourced.
Correct.
You're looking at audio systems, the lighting systems, the screens, the monitors, and so much. And I have always asked myself, what is so hard about installing this kind of equipment so that when I come to ask for a meeting, I don't have to go and outsource for other things? Correct. I just come and find a package, I get it, I have my meeting, and then I go home.
In fact, that's where we want to go. That's where we want to go, because currently we do have some infrastructure, but we want to get to a point where it's plug and play, just like you're saying. You come as a client, you give us your requirements, we tell you, great, this event can be done this way, and we have everything in-house. Don't forget also, we are a commercial entity. Therefore, that will also increase our revenues because we are using our own in-house equipment. That is the direction we're trying to go. Slow steps because of budget, of course, resource mobilization, but we'll get there. Yeah.
I've just seen something on the screen that is Magical Kenya, and just they just concluded Magical Kenya a conference. It has traditionally been held at Kenyatta International Convention Center. This time around, it was held at
Uhuru Gardens.
Uhuru Gardens. Yes. That's another loss of business, and I know you're not happy about this, but And so if this continues, then you're likely to have a situation whereby, the number of meetings being held at KICC, unless you upgrade your infrastructure, will keep on diminishing, and people will be, going for alternatives. And so it's a question of time. Are you working within some time frames whereby you want to upgrade your infrastructure?
So like I mentioned earlier, hopefully by the end of this financial year, we'll have made some significant progress. But let me tell you something else. While the Magical Kenya found its place in Uhuru Gardens, the other good problem we have is our reservation calendar is normally very full, especially for big events. Some of the events or international conferences that have come to KICC are booked earlier before. So with KTB, I think we had an engagement, but by the time they were coming to reserve the dates for Magical Kenya, there was another very big event that was happening at KICC. So it's not lost business, but we had another piece of business. We're not happy that they went, but next time hopefully they'll come back to us because we normally hold it at KICC. So the reservation system in KICC, based on the size of the event, the bigger the event, the longer you have to reserve on the calendar to book those dates. You'll be surprised. This event that we just had this week, the Googler Solar Power Expo and Conference was booked last year. Last year. So some of these events get on our calendar a year before. Because then again, sometimes you don't want you to move the client because they're doing advertising, they're doing communication, they're preparing. These things take time. By the time you get to a big conference like the AFDB, African Development Bank annual meetings, we started over a year ago in planning. So it's quite intensive. So I hear you. And what's pushing us is we need to continue refurbishing and getting KICC fit ready and to be able to compete, because also the meetings are coming up also just as fast, which is good for us, I believe.
Is there political goodwill to transform Kenyatta International Convention Center into a 21st modern MICE hub?
There is. I think ACS, before ACS, I believe that's where we saw even the strongest goodwill, where the executive said, we need to really change this space up. We're bringing a very big conference. How can we build up this place, refurbish it to be ready for that conference? And from then on, we've had some goodwill coming in and support. So if we can consistently maintain this goodwill, in a sustainable way and in a proper partnership way, KICC can get to the level it needs to get to. Like I told you, MICE business is huge. It's one of the fastest growing sectors in tourism. The MICE business has a very huge domino effect in the economy. Once you have a very big conference, it affects so many of our businesses where they get to do business. That is what we want to see happen. Yeah.
You're talking about the growth of MICE in the country, and according to the Kenya Tourism Board, this sector, in the year 2023, it constituted almost 30% of all travelers to Kenya. And so, it's a significant component, and it will continue to grow. When you look at the global statistics, I mean, you're having an industry which is worth $760 billion, projected to grow to about $1.2 trillion by the year 2032. And so, it's going to be huge. And so, how is KICC being primed to reap big in the growing industry?
KICC is at the center. Just like you said, KTB, we have to work very closely with KTB and other relevant stakeholders. Just like you mentioned, by the way, the delegates who come for a conference in Kenya, not just at KICC, but anywhere in Kenya, these days they translate into leisure tourists. Yeah. In KICC, we have something called the delegate experience. What we've been pushing with packages with KWS and other stakeholders is to say, when you come here for a conference, what are you doing before, during, and after? And especially after, because we also have huge numbers of sponsored delegates, meaning they have spent money to come and spend in Kenya. We want you to leave that money here, where it affects our economy. So the other thing we're really pushing is, as KICC in this MICE business and growth, is going to the county level. Under the new administration of the better model, there's a big push to push MICE business to the counties. So what we've done is we've been able to engage a number of counties. We have a few MOUs that are in the works. So that what we're saying as counties, we are going to come in as experts. You give us business of organizing your events and putting them together, and we get a fee for that work. But also we are creating awareness, educating the counties. Last year in Naivasha, we held a session with 23 out of 47 CECs, directors of tourism, tourism executives, just educating them about MICE business and the potential it has to grow revenue at the county level and affect other businesses positively. So we're really pushing hard to ensure that we're also pushing this MICE agenda at the county level. We are currently working with Samburu to organize the MA Festival happening November 6th to the 9th. We are actually the event management company for that. So we're really trying to push also and say, MICE is not about Nairobi, it's about Kenya. How does this get all the way to the mashinani at the ground level? Yeah.
I mean, if you're just joining us, I'm in the company of Jeffrey Thande. He's a business development services manager or director at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. We are looking at the business of meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibitions. It is one of the fastest growing segment of the tourism market, and Kenya is at the forefront when it comes to the African business, and that's the kind of conversation that we are having here. I told you we are coming to you live from our national headquarters here in Nairobi, and this is Inside Government. I want to hear from you, Thande. I mean, when you look at Kenya, we have different agencies, that are in the tourism space, that are in the business that you are in, and I'm talking about the Kenya Tourism Board. You also have the Kenya Export Branding Agency. You have the Tourism Fund. You have Utalii Hotels. You have the Bomas of Kenya. Do we really need all these agencies? I mean, can we form, a mega agency that will be in charge of doing all these? And I want to give an example of Dubai. They have a single agency that deals with, tourism, marketing, development and all things. And it works pretty well.
So we have Keproba, which is an amalgamation of different agencies to try and do what exactly you're saying. But I don't think it's possible to bring everybody under the same umbrella. Interestingly, I was at the United Nations Tourism Week in Kisumu, where we were participating in that very important week, and also pushing the tourism products in Kisumu. And we had a panel session where we are discussing the same exact thing. There are so many agencies. Are they connected? Are they working together? Precisely. You have cattle, you have KTB, you have Hoteliers Association, you have all these stakeholders. The question was, how then can we streamline and have alignment and synergies so that when all these are working together, you can move things quicker? I think the thought process is there. The will is there, but it's a matter of just saying which ones can come together so that you can have now a couple of mega agencies driving this agenda. The thing is, you have some that are very specific in what they do, so you cannot necessarily merge them with others. But the question is, can we get alignment? We recently had a stakeholder engagement at KICC to talk about our hoteliers and other stakeholders, and they are saying the same thing. We need to learn how to synergize so that, because we're going after the same thing. Either it's the tourist, the delegate, or now the business tourist, what we're calling bleisure. So we're going after the same type of client. How do we bring those synergies together? I think that's happening, but I don't see just one huge, in my view, but I see specialized units working towards the same thing. Having these engagements, we need to have more of them, and also we need to commit with timelines on how to do that.
Look, there were also proposals to have a major and an international convention center in Mombasa, which was supposed to complement the business of Kenyatta International Convention Center. Is this happening anytime soon?
The discussions were there, I think, last couple of years. Then COVID came and we're done with COVID. I think the ideas are there. I think it just needs the strong county level will and also the national government will to make that happen. It's something also we've said as KICC, we do need a convention center in Mombasa. It's ideal, the location is ideal. It would really complement the business we do in Nairobi and also offer more opportunities for clients to come and bring conferencing business to Kenya. So I trust and hope that that conversation will continue and actually reach to a place where implementation is happening. And of course, resources is always a discussion. Resources will also have to be in place to make that happen. And that's why I told you earlier, I think also partnership with the private sector to come in and partner with us would be a very big plus. Some of these guys are experts in what they do. They also have some muscle in terms of resources. And how can we come together to make this happen?
I mean, we just want to take you back in time. I mean, the year was 1973 when the founding father of the Republic of Kenya, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, was commissioning the brand new Kenyatta International Convention Center. I mean, back then, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation was there. And I want you to see the clips on the screen. This was captured by Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. That was on the 11th of September in 1973. This is part of our rich archives. I mean, look at him. He was just walking around KICC and he gave a speech, proclaiming that this was going to be the future of meetings and conferences in Kenya. I mean, his words have come to pass, and this is the conversation that we are having here. That was back in 1973, and the man on your screen is the founding president of the Republic of Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, the late. I mean, the beauty of it is that, this KICC is still intact. I mean, everything that you are saying here, if you got to the ground today, you can see it. But unfortunately, some of the things here, have been passed by time. They need to be worked on, and that's what you are talking about. I mean, if you had to look at KICC, and if there is one thing that you were to change, Mr. Thande, what would that be?
I would want to see more advanced technology in KICC. Like I mentioned earlier, the infrastructure was future looking, because if you look at the ramps for PWD clients, if you look at the entrances, all those had something in mind in terms of the future, looking in the future. This one will go in posterity, but in terms of now getting to a level where, and I mentioned technology is a very big player now in the MICE business, it would be good to see, and I know we'll get there, having the very serious level of technology advancements to get us to the next level.
Would you change the name?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think maybe that's something we can maybe put out there to the public. I mean, KICC is a building owned by Kenyans. It's a gazetted building. The monument of our founding president is a gazetted space, so owned by the National Museums of Kenya. So I think it's something we can put out to Kenyans. It's an interesting question, but I would say instead of me answering by myself, something maybe to put out there.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking so is because I've heard it from different quarters that there were proposals in the past to change it from Kenyatta International Convention Center to Kenya you know, International Convention Center or Nairobi International Convention Center,
Yes.
so that you can give it a global appeal. I don't know where, you know, those discussions went up to, but do you think that would be a valid conversation to have?
Not a bad conversation to have and maybe get some ideas. I don't think it's bad. I'm not aware that there was discussions to change the name, but now that you say that, maybe it's a good idea to just maybe put out there, just hear what people are saying, get ideas. It's all about getting ideas so you can have the best outcome. Yeah.
Let's also focus on, you know, the growing, you know, competition within this space. I mean, in the, you know, in less than 5 years, I mean, we have seen the emergence of other convention centers, you know, who are saying that they are offering, you know, superior products than KICC, and they are touting, you know, technology as one of the biggest offering. And I'm looking at, you know, facilities like The Edge, you know, in South B?
South C.
South C.
The College of Insurance.
You know, at the College of Insurance. You know, I'm also looking at, you know, the facilities like the Pride in Mombasa. The Radisson Blues, you know, they have also come up with a very modern convention center there, among many other. What does this really mean for business at KICC?
Competition is good. But like I mentioned earlier, the competition we face, you have to look at really the space or the venue that's offering a service. Pride Inn and other venues like those who are in the hospitality sector, the hotels, do have their own catering. So they're able to package their packages very well in terms of the pricing. We don't have catering, so we outsource catering.
Yeah.
So we also try and package a price on the same width. Listen, it's good to have competition. It's good to have other offerings. Like I mentioned, space is something that we need. We need a lot of space for the meetings that are coming to Kenya, and the demand is high. So it's good to have competition. For us also in our mandate, like I mentioned, the domino effect when a big conference comes to Kenya, it's the same thing with the hotels. We want you to get business. We want you to have a piece of this pie. So in that respect, we're working as partners. But in terms of KICC developing, becoming better, competition is good because it also challenges us to improve our technology, our infrastructure, so that it meets today's standards and future standards. It's critical.
It's critical.
Yeah.
You brought in a very interesting and critical point. I mean, you know, when you look at the modern convention centers, I mean, they give you they come as packaged as a one-stop shop. You know, whereby, you know, they offer, you know, catering services, transport facilities, meeting facilities, and so much. But for KICC, I mean, you have to outsource catering services. You also have to outsource, you know, transport services. Are you looking at a situation whereby, you know, KICC is likely to have everything in one place?
Absolutely. And when I say outsource, we still sell our products as a one-stop proposition. So when we're talking to a client and they get the requirements of what they need, tents, food, security, all these things, we say we'll provide you with everything as a one-stop shop. How we do it is our business. Now, like I mentioned earlier in terms of audiovisual... But
of course it will be expensive, because you also have to make your markup.
Correct. In terms of getting it all in-house, like I mentioned earlier about our audiovisual and ensuring we're investing in our own equipment, same thing comes to this respect. How can we then ensure that we have all those services in-house? The biggest one is catering. And that's how, you know, it's a bigger conversation. You know, Intercon did shut down. I believe in the last CS was in place. We had proposed and said, maybe can we take over the Intercon with an underground tunnel where we can do a catering there so that we can provide meals and maybe even accommodation. Those are dreams that we have as KICC. But if they come to be true, that would be a game changer for us. So
is it happening? Is it likely to happen? Is it a conversation that you're having with who? We've
had it before through the ministry and any relevant stakeholder through Parliament, but these discussions take time. I mean, the thing is, in government, things sometimes take time, but we want to change that and say, how can we propel this quicker so that we can get that advantage? So that's one good example. Big dream, if it comes true, would work. But also,
what would they take? I mean, for KICC to take over the Intercontinental Hotel. I know part of Intercon is owned by the government. You know, there's a government shareholding. Right. Unfortunately, they closed down because of COVID. They've never reopened.
Right.
And that facility has been lying down. I mean, it's been lying idle there.
True.
And it's a critical facility.
True.
Look, it's just next to Nyayo House, you know, critical installation.
Yeah.
Next to it, you have the Holy Family Cathedral,
True.
another tourism landmark. Then next you have Parliament. And less than 500 meters, you know, you also have, you know, the office of the president. You have Sharia House. True. You have many other installations, and so True. It would be very good. I mean, to have KICC owning up that facility. What would it take for that to happen?
We believe so. I mean, there are several levels of discussions. Of course, in terms of ownership, of course, that needs to be sorted out, and then whoever owns it would probably need to sit with the government through the ministry and say, we'll take up this facility. Why? We want to make it part of the venue for a MICE business, and it will be a competitive advantage. So those discussions have to happen at a certain level before then we say, okay, it comes to us and say, okay, this is going to happen. Then how do we plug in and make sure it happens? Look, Intercon is down, Hilton is down. In terms of our business, in terms of accommodation, that affects our business. Some of the conferences that come that are international, they're asking, what is the closest hotel where our delegates can stay? Preferably where they can walk to KICC. That's security. So as we still have other hotels still in the city, these two are also quite favorable because of the distance. So we're also losing. So we're saying we can also have an advantage where if that was to be owned by KICC in terms of catering and even offer accommodation. Look at Kigali. Of course, Kigali's model is different. The Radisson Blu runs the convention center. So if we had a similar arrangement where KICC owns, took up Intercon for catering and accommodation, that's a big plus.
Thank God. I mean, you brought in the issue of you know, the hotels that have closed down in CBD in the last 10 years, and I'll start with you know, the Grand Regency Hotel. You know, I've seen it is now under renovation. You also have the Hilton Hotel, you know, a major landmark, you know, quite sad that it had to close down. And then you had the Intercontinental Hotel, which was, you know, a favorite for American tourists, together with Hilton hotels. What has this done to your business? Because currently now in CBD, you're now left with how many hotels? One of them is New Stanley. I mean, it doesn't have many beds. And then, you know, you also have Serena Hotel.
And Sarova up the hill.
And Sarova.
Yeah.
You just have those three.
Yeah, but JW Marriott has joined the club, which is not too far. Look, I mean, hotel...
That is in Westlands.
Yeah, hotels will keep coming up, I believe. Not that because we've had some that are shut down doesn't mean there's no opportunity for some investors or another chain to come and say we can put up a hotel in the city. What this also creates is opportunity for other competitors in the same business to put up a facility in the city. Like you said, Hilton and Intercon shutting down, that's huge. Bed space and all other things, that's huge. But also creates an opportunity to say there's a gap here. How do we fill the gap? In my thinking. You see, the designation and the strategic location of KICC, I mean, the architects, you know, were very deliberate. I mean, they wanted to have a conference center, you know, within a walking distance of major hotels, and that's why, you know, they thought about, you know, the center of the city, where you had Hilton Hotel less than 400 meters away. Then you had Intercon, the same thing. Unfortunately, they have closed down. True. Has this affected your business? Not really, because if I use the example of the last financial year, last quarter, like I mentioned at the beginning, the Africa Development Bank had its governors' annual meetings at KICC for a whole week. One of the biggest things in their checklist was accommodation. And the government, as partners, were able to convince and say we have enough beds for delegates, plus your 700 delegates who are sponsored by the bank. All those were taken up by the JW Marriott. So
that is in Westlands. Correct, in Westlands.
Even as we have closures of hotels, I think with the ones springing up, maybe not in the city, are still helping our business. The expressway is helping our business. So I wouldn't say the impact is that severe. It's just that at least as we lost these two, others came up or were coming up, not in the same area, but close by. Yeah.
I mean, it is true. You know, when you look at the last, 5 years, you know, more than 3,000 beds, have been added in Nairobi. And you're looking at, JW Marriott. I mean, the Grand Hyatt is also up here. The Gem Forest that opened just the other day, the Landmark Hotel in Gigiri, and all these are new hotels, adding up, more space in Nairobi. Unfortunately, it is not the same for the Central Business District.
True.
And there is an urgent need for us to reinvigorate Nairobi CBD. I mean, it is in total chaos. We must appreciate that fact.
True.
Are you having conversations with the authorities? And I'm talking about the Nairobi County, the central government. I mean, to see how you can, you can spruce up Nairobi CBD, because let's face it, I mean, that's where you're based.
True. I mean, through KTB and other agencies, we continue to have these conversations with the county, with government on saying what else can be done to the city to ensure it's attractive and it's also a cosmopolitan place where delegates can enjoy themselves while attending a conference at KICC or a conference at Sarova or somewhere else within the city. So those conversations are ongoing. And we continue to lobby, because ours is to really also lobby and say there's an opportunity here, we need to bring this back up, because also it's affecting not just us, could be affecting other businesses. So definitely, those conversations do happen. We do lobby as best as we can through the relevant stakeholders to ensure that Nairobi continues to be the city of choice. What's been done to the Uhuru Park, hopefully when it's opened up, that space is also very important. So I think these are ongoing conversations, because again, we have to ensure that all facets of the city are aligned to provide a good experience to our delegates and clients who come.
I mean, one of the most important aspects of MICE business is the fact that, you know, apart from attending meetings, delegates would want to go, you know, for shopping.
Yes.
Right now, we don't have what you would classify as a world-class shopping center, you know, in CBD.
True.
You know, all of them, you know, are miles away from outside the CBD, and you're looking at, you know, things like the village markets, you know, almost,
Sarit.
you know, Sarit Center, Westgate, Junction, Two Rivers, you know, all of them, you know, they're outside the city center. But you just need one major shopping center in CBD where people can even walk at night, do their shopping, go back to their hotels. But this is a missing link. How can we get to that point?
It takes a discussion of many. Of course, the national government, the Nairobi County government also really playing in this space and saying, how can we bring up a mall like that? It's a one-stop shop for not just our locals, but also outside clients, tourists, delegates. You know, we have different kinds of clients who come to Kenya and tourists. I think it is an important facet, but of course, it has to be well thought out. Location has to be prime, considering other infrastructure that will be necessary to make it function smoothly and well, just like you're saying. It's an opportunity, but I think the county and the national government can really, they can really come together, sit down, they would be able to say, this is probably a missing piece and would make a big difference in the city. We, of course, as stakeholders, would be very interested in that conversation, lobbying, seeing what our input would be, because again, it's going to help our business and other businesses in the city.
Look, we were talking about, you know, the Hilton Hotel, you know, that closed down, the Intercontinental. And these two spaces, I mean, they offer such an exclusive and a very high-end location when it comes to setting up, you know, a shopping center, you know, a shopping mall, you know, hotels and even, you know, amusement parks. Yeah. Because people don't just want to come for meetings. They also want to have fun. They want to do shopping. What do we really need to do, I mean, so that we can see, and also you have a lot of space, you know, outside KICC. Are there thoughts, you know, within KICC that you can utilize some of the space that you have, you know, be it, you know, at the lawns or commercial grounds, for setting up a world-class shopping center, amusement park, and maybe a hotel, so that it will now complete, you know, the whole package?
I think for us, because space, like I mentioned earlier or several times, is very important, that might not really be the best way to go, because as it is, we need more meeting space. We've had clients who've come to us who are saying, listen, we want to bring a conference here next year from X country, and our delegate counts are looking at about 30 to 50,000 people. Can you be able to have meeting rooms, side rooms, all these for us? We can go to a certain extent, but no. So for us, I think meetings is more important. That is our mandate. And what we'll be going for would be space. How do we create more space? And that's why I told you earlier, you look at the lawns and other spaces, say, maybe how can we convert maybe some of this space to meeting space, where you're creating more rooms for meeting, in my view.
You know, I've gone to I've attended international meetings, you know,
Yes.
in many parts of the world, and one of the things that you clearly see is that you have a well thought out idea whereby delegates, you know, once they land, they are given either maps, you know, or you know, there's something that you can scan.
Sure.
For you to see the shopping centers around, you know, the amazing sites, you know, that are around you, but I don't see these, you know, happening at KICC.
Well, actually, we do work with clients like the AFDB governance annual meetings. There was an app.
So you could scan.
Yeah, actually, the app was able to give a
But that
delegate.
was by AFDB.
Yes. So what we do is we also work with clients to come up with their own customized what they're looking for, because sometimes our standard, if we were to, and it's a good idea to come up with such an application, it might not speak to all type of events. Remember, we host very different current events all year round. So what we prefer is to work with the client and say, what are you looking for? Then these other people can plug in accommodation, all these places, shopping, etc. Let's put that on the app so a delegate can be able to tell, if I want to go shop, I'll go here. If I want to go eat, I'll go here. That's how we kind of approach it. Yeah.
One of the most interesting aspects of KICC was the revolving restaurant, and so many people do not know this. That in 1973, you know, Kenya was one of the few African countries to have a revolving hotel on top of KICC. It was on on
the 27th floor.
27th floor. Can you just imagine, you know, having
28.
dinner, well, having a bird's eye view of the city at night, and that was back in 1973. I mean, that was a dream that we had, and it was achieved. Unfortunately, the hotel closed down. What are we doing to have it back?
So within the last year, we've had discussions with some investors on how that space can either be a restaurant or some other type of business that still provides value and an experience for Kenyans and non-Kenyans. But this one would have to be probably a private-public partnership, because there's quite a bit of investment that would be required to get it to the standards that need to be. So the discussions.
And when
are
you talk
ongoing.
about you know, significant investment that is needed, you're looking at how much?
I mean, millions. I mean, millions of Kenyan shillings.
But not billions.
I wouldn't say billions, but probably millions. But then again, this will be qualified by a feasibility study to give us the actual numbers. So we're just throwing numbers out there, but we need to do an actual feasibility study. So conversations are ongoing. Interests, parties do come, then they kind of disappear. They're like, well, maybe this might not work for us. So the conversations are there. But in our view, I think a PPP would be a good way to look at it. Because again, like I mentioned, instead of why don't you get an expert in that business? You partner so that they can run the business. We're in the business of mice, and that's what we're saying. Like, for example, a county, bring us on board. We'll help you run this business. So for this revolving, we've had a few discussions with a few people, but hopefully when we get the right investor, then we can see how to get it going. But it would probably be needing to be a PPP, in my view.
And when you talk about you know, reviving the revolving, you know, restaurant at KICC, I mean, so many things, you know, have to come into play, because number one, you need to secure the city center. Because, you know, the last thing you want to do is to go have your dinner, you know, at the revolving restaurant, and then on your way home you're mugged, or you're carjacked, or your car is vandalized. I mean, and so security around KICC, and I have seen this concept. I mean, what makes a Burj Khalifa, you know, such a top tourism destination is because the area around Burj Khalifa, I mean, it's quite secure. You know, the lightings, you know, the work, the security is very good. You can even take a canal walk. And so it will take more than KICC, I mean, to get that facility up and running. What other stakeholders are needed to actualize that dream? So
actually, let me just share something. In terms of security, one of the reasons why KICC is attractive is because of the security around KICC. The head of police headquarters is there. There are several installations that are around KICC that speak security. Inside KICC, we have a police station, we have agents from NIS, we have all kinds of agents who are housed in KICC. And that's why sometimes when we have concerts, it becomes a very attractive venue compared to others, because people can go home safely.
But help me understand this. I mean, it's true. I mean, you know, you have the parliament, which is just next door, where you have a police station there. You also have a police station at KICC.
True.
Central Police is like how many? Maybe 2
Probably
kilometers?
About 2-3 kilometers.
Yeah, away.
Yeah.
But let's imagine a situation whereby would you walk from KICC and go and spend the night at, let's say, the New Stanley Hotel or Serena Hotel?
It's possible, but like you asked, which other agency would have to come into play? The police, of course. I mean, those would ensure that the government square and outside is secure.
And the tourism police.
And the tourism police. They would have to do that. But I can tell you, outside KICC, within, it's quite safe.
Within KICC,
and
it's very
just
safe.
outside, even outside the gate, if you're walking in or walking through that area, there's always a lot of
But
presence.
beyond that?
Then the police would come into play and say, how do we continue to secure this place so that people can move in and out easily? We've had major international conferences, major concerts at KICC at night, many events ending at night. So we've experienced it. But to enhance it even further, to your point, to walk even further out, I mean, the police would have to work with the police also and say, how do you help us ensure this place is secure as people are moving in and out? Sometimes the meetings run late and someone needs to leave late.
You celebrated your 50th anniversary?
Yes.
Was it this year or last year?
It was in 2023.
2023.
Yes.
And part of the things that were proposed was to have a zip line, as an added attraction to KICC, crossing maybe from KICC to Hilton, or maybe something like that. Are we having something like that?
I think that one, because of security reasons, it might not pass.
It may not work.
It may not work. Because remember also, the rooftop of KICC, there's a helipad where people go to take pictures, 360 view. We're also working on the helipad where choppers can be able to land. That's in process with the various agencies, but the review process is quite vigorous. So in terms of zipline, that might not work because of security reasons. That will probably not even be allowed because you're coming from a very, very high building going down. I mean, there's so many different security risks that would come up. So,
but they can be addressed.
I would maybe, I don't know, but that's an idea is a little bit far-fetched.
Because that's a problem, and there must be a solution.
True.
And instead of saying no, that would be a bad problem for us. I mean, maybe it's a good problem that will help in securing the area around KICC. Because I mean, look, you have the Railway Museum, which is just next door, and you have the Holy Family Basilica. True. You have Uhuru Park just next door. You have many other attractive places within KICC. And it would be so ideal, to have a package whereby, after a long day of meetings, you can take a stroll to Holy Family Basilica, to the Macmillan Library, to the Railway Museum, and so many other places. It comes as a package. And
True.
This is probably maybe a discussion that you need to have with other people.
And I agree with other relevant agencies. I agree with you. I've been to meetings outside the country, very many places, and I agree with you. That ability to walk easily, comfortably, accessing different products is what you call the delegate experience. And
having what we call city tours and sightseeing within the CBD.
Absolutely.
Geoffrey, I mean, before I let you go, what else do we need to know about KICC? Is there anything exciting that we should look forward for?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, stay tuned for the dancing fountains that will be coming to KICC very soon. And it will be a very exciting product that will also help us augment revenues but give people a very good experience.
Very good.
Thank you.
Geoffrey, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much. And
the time is highly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you
for having me. Good luck and all the best to KICC.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
I mean, Geoffrey Thande is the Business Development Services Director at Kenyatta International Convention Center, joining us here on Inside Government to help us understand the status of MICE business in Kenya and where KICC sits in. Our hope, desire and prayers are that KICC will continue to grow and go to higher places. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You've been watching Inside Government live from Broadcasting House here in Nairobi. Thank you very much indeed for your time. We do again this on this coming Friday, so stay tuned. Bye for now.
Business, was it? The loss of a limb can be devastating. And of course, this can cause a significant disruption in different aspects of an individual's life.
I was going to sit down, then I knocked my knee on a bench.
Yes.
Then from the knock, I just ignored everything. And the more we were taking time, the more infection was spreading. Yes. And that is how I got to know that my leg was affected. Then after the diagnosis, I went through amputation.
I think it hit me so hard, and I realized, oh my God, my parents don't love me. Why are they bringing me to such an environment? So one of the challenges that I've faced or gone through is just discrimination.
And then another challenge that I've faced as a lady who is living with who has gone through amputation is the fact that prostheses are normally very expensive.
That is one of the things. And then the other thing is for us ladies, maybe she'll also give her own perspective when it comes to relationships also.
So can we trust him?
Of course not.
Why have I been locked out of G&J?
Nix unajua uamuzi yenye ilifanywa na board.
And I've put so much into this company.
Are you here to pass your goodbyes?
Hey, wewe. We ni nani?
What do you have for me?
Sikupoa. Wakili.
I need you to set up a meeting with Millicent. It's urgent.
I want this case dropped. Whoa. They are forcing my hand, Nick. They are forcing my hand.
We have to make a decision before 4 p.m.
I trust you in this, so do it.
No food, no water for 2 days.
What?
Kenya stands on the threshold of a digital revolution. From its cities to the most remote corners of the nation, digital platforms are empowering citizens, enabling businesses, and driving economic growth. Through initiatives like Jitume and Ajira Digital, the government of Kenya is ensuring that all Kenyans benefit from the power of digital technology. The government of Kenya, through the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy, is committed to building an inclusive digital future.
ICT has continued to play a very key role in our economic transformation agenda. We aim to facilitate internet access and e-government services as a right for our citizens, regardless of their demographics, income levels, or geographical location.